I have always drawn, even as a child, growing all the way up through high school. And when I graduated from high school in Francisville, Indiana, which is 100 miles west of here, I decided to come to Fort Wayne, to the Fort Wayne Art Institute, for an education in fine arts. And through that program then, I also, they offer it in conjunction with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree with Indiana University, which was in the local campus here. So I did that program and graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts. And from there, I took off doing artwork. And I did a lot of fine arts, but I also did commercial art to keep the rent paid, the mortgage paid. But then in 2002, I decided to do a project on the old barns in Indiana. And the reason why I did that is because I felt that we were losing our barns, and I wanted to use my talent to bring that awareness about barns to everybody, everybody that I could get to look at a painting. And so I developed a project and did paintings from every county in Indiana. Some counties I have two. Most of them I have two barns that I've done a painting of. And most of them were done on location. And I used an easel quite like this one to set up and paint on location. And so most of them are painted while I'm looking at the barn. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to do the best I could do at capturing the character and the integrity and the atmosphere and all of the beautiful colors that a camera doesn't see but our eye does. The reflected light is much more brilliant, and the colors in the reflected light and the colors in the shadows are much more interesting in when you see something for real, set up there in front of you to paint instead of using a photo reference. So I did use photo references when I needed to. Actually, this one is a photo reference because I can't paint in the snow. I get too cold. So, and my paint gets stiff, so I don't paint outside in the snow. So then when I did all the counties, and there's 92 counties, that's 184. Some counties I wasn't able to get two barns. There were a few. So I did extra barns in those counties, in other counties to make up for that loss, and ended up with 186 barn paintings in my project. And then I published this book to get the word out more about not only barns but painting to everyone, and to try to stir some interest in saving historic barns. So in the book is all 186 barn paintings that I did, very nicely published, I might add. And there's also a bit of history or story with each painting. And that was really fun because I got to talk to some of the most fantastic people that own barns around the state. And then I also took some detail photos of old latches or hinges or something like that that were really unique in the barn. And I put those also in the book. So I wanted to represent the barns in a more realistic way because of the whole orientation of the project. So They are mostly very painterly, but they are mostly realistic. However, there's a lot of impressionism in some of them, and I've pushed colors a little bit more than normal to try to emphasize how light plays on objects, on structures, and on the environment. So with that in mind, I usually let the barn dictate how to paint it, because some barns were very casual and not very formal and set in a very rustic or overgrown situation. So those are painted looser, a little more freer with my brush strokes. And then some of the barns are really formal, and they have all kinds of elaborate trim work on their doors and windows and framing, and beautiful gardens around them, or special plantings of trees, or flags, or something like that. So those, I tried to capture that character by painting them a little more realistically. So I did vary my approach to painting depending on what my subject matter told me to do. I was very careful about not going into a barn unless I spoke with the owner and made sure it was okay, because that was a matter of respect for the barn owner and the family and their history. And a lot of them provided little bits of information and even historic photos of the barn from many years past. And it was just a very, very interesting project to do, because I got to meet so many interesting people. And I of all the barns I've been in, I've never seen two that are the same. They all reflect the integrity and the ingenuity of each barn owner. So it was really great. I've often been asked why I chose barns, and I think it goes back to my childhood. I was raised on a farm, and we had a barn, and it was a beautiful, big old barn. And I had cousins nearby and brothers and sisters, and we would go in the haymow and play all the time. And to my father's, not anger, he didn't really get anger, but his frustration, I guess, we would tear the bales apart and make a huge slope that we could jump on up here and slide all the way down to the bottom of the hay, in the hayloft, and we'd play hide and go seek and that. So I've got all these wonderful memories about playing in a barn. But then when I was about 12, one night the barn burnt down. And it was really, really traumatic for me personally, because I had a really strong attachment to the barn and to all the animals in the barn. So maybe it's because of that, that I had that early sort of a bit of trauma around it that made me want to acknowledge the barns that we do have